Ladies and gentlemen, a big hello and a very warm welcome to yet another high impact Leaders of Tomorrow eForum. And this is the last of our series. I'm Sonali Krishna. And today is our finale, so we thought it was only appropriate for us to end this with a session that acknowledges the present and gives direction for the future. Hence, today's session will focus on new age business practices for small businesses. It's not news when I say the pandemic has wreaked havoc for small businesses. Entrepreneurs on shoestring budgets who have managed to keep their businesses open during the pandemic have had to rip up their business plans, lay off workers, pivot, renegotiate leases, reduce traffic at their shops for safety reasons, develop new products to sell, all while maintaining cash flow in an environment where many consumers are cash strapped and unemployed. Is it possibly time now for small businesses to erase the blueprint of the past and start over? And joining me today to guide this conversation is an illustrious panel. I'm joined by Amit Kumar, founder and CEO of MSMEx, Shreyas Srinivasan, founder and CEO of Paytm Insider, Vidit Aatrey, founder and CEO of Meesho, and last but not the least, Arjun Mohan, CEO of upGrad. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking time out and joining us right here on this e-forum. So first things first, I'm going to open the floor with opening commentary with what you've observed on the ground, how you've witnessed small businesses survive the last 6 months. And with that, I'd like to start with you, Amit, on your key observations on how businesses and entrepreneurs have managed to survive so far, 6 months in.
Yeah, Sonali. So I think a pretty interesting point there. So overall ecosystem of India, if we see, there are 99.5% are the micro companies, and then 0.5% are the small, medium, large companies. So everyone struggled. Obviously, it was sector-wise impact. Some sectors were still doing well. Some sectors pivoted, but some sectors had to find out new business opportunities. So initial couple of weeks, we saw that the business owners are totally confused. They were like, what has happened? What is to be done? They were not sure. And you can take any action that's very obvious when you know how much is the impact going to last? What is the, longevity of that? What is the duration? But then these people were clueless. And obviously large companies were also clueless. What is going to happen? So the initial phase was, okay, let us accept the reality and stay calm, because there is no point in just jumping on any conclusion or taking strong actions. So people were busy in learning, in coaching, attending webinars, attending sessions, and talking to their customers, talking to their teams, and trying to motivate themselves and to their ecosystem as well, and spending good time with family. Well, there was no other option. But slowly things started moving into some direction. People got the clarity. Then the unlock 1 came in, 2 came in, 3 came in. So the initial phase of unlock 1 was again turbulence. We also saw that suddenly the traffic on our platform, when we see a lot of people coming to our platform for advice, that dipped. Because we were talking to the users said that they are busy in opening up their offices and factories. But then this started moving once again. So users actually found directions, the business owners found directions recently in last 2 months. And the way you said, directly that, yes, they were struggling through cash flows. They were finding the risk in their employee segment. The customer base was changing. Some particular sectors were completely wiped out. So people were trying to pivot into a completely new direction. Some people were adopting technology. Some people were seeing the large companies pivot what they are doing. They are changing from offline to online. So they were also trying to figure out that, can we do something online there? So yeah, there was a lot of chaos and turbulence, but now we see that things are getting streamlined. Everyone has accepted this as a reality and part of the life. And yes, people are now moving in the right direction. So we have seen the traction coming back from all over.
Okay, I'm going to take it from there, and Shreyas, bringing you in. 6 months in, we've seen a lot of people who've completely bled to death and are possibly in a comatose position. For those who have survived and have managed to keep the ball rolling, somehow still struggling, Since we know that this is an ongoing pandemic and we have no sight on when the curtains will come down on COVID-19, what would you recommend small business owners to do at the moment? Do they continue as is? Do they look at pivoting? Because I think messaging that seems to be coming quite clearly is, if it's not working, pivot or perish.
I think people are realizing that the only real virtue when it comes to people is flexibility and the ability to learn. And if I was to give anyone advice, I would say the old world is dead. Hold on to it as much as we want, but it's not under our control and we don't come back. Some basic human behaviors will persist. The need for social connection, the need for self-expression in large gatherings, those will never go away. Basic human traits. We are in a pandemic. The industry doesn't want to aid the disease spreading. Anyone I meet, I'm telling them, be flexible, be open, be learning, and forget the old model. It doesn't matter what you were 12 months ago. All that matters is what can you learn in the next 2 months to be 3 months down the line. And I think we've seen that happen. A lot of our organizers who were 5 people, 6 people teams who used to put together events have now figured out how to do video production, have figured out how to do online events, how to create a new segment themselves. And events are not as large as what their older segments were. Understandable because it's young, but the intent and the effort is all we can ask for. And I think people are very committed that way, and people are committed to re-engineering, rediscovering themselves.
Vidit, if I can bring you in, what would you say if a business owner at the moment, how would you know what the signs are in terms of whether you should hold or fold?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Sonali. Just before I kind of get into this question, let me give some idea about what we do at Meesho to people who don't know about us. So we are the largest social commerce platform. On one side, we enable a lot of women to start home-based businesses in fashion and lifestyle. And on the other side, we have manufacturers in the same industry who kind of put these products up for these women entrepreneurs to sell to people in their own community. I can kind of share stories where we have learned, where we have seen that people adapted to the new times pretty quickly on both sides of the platforms. If I look at just on the side of women entrepreneurs running these businesses out of their houses, we see a lot of them very, very quickly. So a lot of them are running pure offline boutiques. They wrapped it up, moved online, say, hey, the only way I'm going to survive right now is by selling online because people are not going to meet me anymore. People are going to be scared for a long time. And we saw lots of people doing this. The other big change also was, apart from changing the channel, was changing categories. So people realized the kind of categories that were very relevant earlier may not be so relevant right now. Like, for example, if you were selling jewelry a long time ago, if people are not going out, attending functions, how will you expect the kind of sales for that category stay up? But some newer categories such as masks, such as a lot of health-related products, a lot of daily wear, loungewear, the kind of things that people are wearing when they stay at home are becoming larger than what they were before. And we started to see that people who very quickly adapted to these two things, one is changing categories, changing channel, essentially became more successful than what they were doing earlier, because very few people could adapt so far, right? So if you do it faster than others, you end up winning. I don't think the answer is as simple as saying, okay, hold or fold, right? There are people who are thinking of this as a complete challenge and giving up. And I have seen lots of people who think of this as a great opportunity for me to come ahead of everyone else. And we have seen people succeeding. So it's completely about mindset, being open, being flexible, as what Shreyas said, so that you can understand what the new world is and then realize, what do I change in my business to become successful?
Arjun, you must be a very happy man, given that the category you operate in is currently, it's just hit it out of the park. And this was asked to guesstimate its success, let's say 6 months earlier. Nobody would have thought that online education would be such a runaway success. Having said that, as an entrepreneur and as somebody who's also got your ear to the ground in terms of how small businesses have been coping, taking a cue from what the other panelists said, they've said that, it is important to keep your eyes open and look at what is relevant in today's world and what will be relevant tomorrow. Could you guide people who are listening in, small entrepreneurs especially, on how you come to that conclusion?
I have observed is that, yes, as media has been talking about it, EdTech has suddenly come to the forefront after this whole pandemic stuck in. Very simple. People can't stop learning, especially the K-12 segment. You have to go to school, right? What can you do? So there has to be some learning, and that's how the whole learning from home, learning online started becoming mainstream. What I'm seeing is that yes, it's true. There's huge increase in traffic. Huge number of people are trying it out, but still, to a large extent, it's in that trying out stage. A lot of people who were fence sitters earlier, who had not ever really thought about online education, suddenly were deciding that okay, maybe should I try this out? What is happening because of this is 5 to 6 times traffic increase happened. But if you look at the translation into revenue terms or the real conversion terms, I wouldn't say that much because it's also a time of uncertainty. People are also thinking, okay, should I invest in this? Should I keep it aside? What if COVID happens? So the sales cycles have gone ahead, has become longer. So the expectation is that eventually the companies having very good sales and marketing infrastructure, good products which can convert these customers who are free customers now eventually into paying customers will win the market. That's the expectation. Some of the trends which I'm seeing, especially on that fence sitters, is that especially after 1 month after the pandemic stuck, after the lockdown stuck, we saw a huge increase in traction from smaller towns, tier two, tier three, a lot of entrepreneurs. And I think, as Amit correctly mentioned about this trend, initial 1 month it was denial. Okay, fine, it will be all fine, it will be okay. Then it suddenly started sinking in. There's no other way. They started thinking about what to do next. So I saw a tremendous increase in people looking at business related products like business analytics, e-commerce, how do I build a website, UI, UX design, things like that. And when we went deeper, we saw a lot of entrepreneurs from smaller towns who were traditionally running a retail shop suddenly is thinking, how do I now get on an e-commerce platform? How do I ensure that with my same, I mean, can I reach a new base of customers? Pandemic has really killed off a lot of businesses. Totally agree. A lot of them have folded out, but it also has come out with a new breed of businessmen who has huge resilience, who understands that if I need to survive, I need to accept the new way of doing, which which is going online, which is about using platforms like Flipkart, Amazon, or Meesho for that matter, which is about finally realizing digital marketing as a concept is very important. Then once they start doing it, they realize that okay, fine, I need not have stuck myself to a small town of Surat or Allahabad. I could have actually sold to the entire country. So we are in a stage where a lot of things are getting rewritten, and for the viewers who are listening to us now, I would only say that it's just a time where you have to relook at what you're doing and see if you are still relevant to the customer. And if you're not relevant, why are you not relevant? Is it a channel problem? Is it a communication problem? Or is it a product problem? Once you start thinking about it and once you start doing what is important for that customer who you're servicing to, things will all fall in place. It's all about keeping your eyes and ears open.
Amit, coming back to you, would you say that we finished 6 months and we're going to travel, let's say, another year, year and a half before things become normal, we hope? Would you say that in this journey for, small businesses, mostly MSMEs and that large sector, that entire sector is going to face a bit of an upheaval because those who remain would have been agile and strong enough to pivot to continue and remain in business, but a lot would be left by the wayside. And this kind of reiteration of that sector, while it is a sad thing to see, will eventually make the entire sector a lot more healthier.
Yeah, so I agree with you, Sonali. So these are the tough times, where in the other lingo, what we say is the time where the boys and the men will get separated out. And even if we take the ecology examples there, the Darwin said the most adaptable will survive, not the intelligent one, not the people who have the strength and the power, they will not. So people who are going to be adaptable, they will survive, no doubt in that. But in this overall, what we see is that different category, different segment, different tier of cities, they are going to behave differently. So tier one, a business owner possibly is more exposed. They are connected to better experts, better network, and they can take support. Tier 2, 3, 4 town, business entrepreneurs, they don't have those luxuries. if they want help, they cannot get that help. And if I try to give you example, what kind of help I'm talking about? When we interact with these micro business owners, you will get surprised that our experts are coaching them in how to use Google Sheet, how to make a Google form, how to even select a mini ERP for you. They are confused whether they should go to Meesho or they should try something on Flipkart, or if my sale is stagnant on Amazon, what should I do? It is that level of basic problem. When we live in cities, okay, we all come from educated background, we are startup founders. Our thought process is possibly hundred or thousand times better or different or more evolved there. So what technology has done in last couple of years is technology first created a lot of awareness, and everyone's like, wow, things are available, this is available, that is available, exciting. And then it led to realization. Fine, I am aware now. Now I realize, okay, how this should be used. Okay, I can do something on Meesho, I can do something on Amazon, I can try and coach me, I can try something on digital marketing. That's also realization. But can they do it? No, because the is required to do it, it is still not there. So the technology which has created the awareness, the technology which has created the realization, now the responsibility of that technology is to create the knowledge also to that business user. Otherwise, they will further get more confused, and this anxiety will make them very much uncomfortable. So, having said that, now the next step is how they are moving forward is they are trying to make themselves aware. So adaptability is not about pivot. Adaptability is who are increasing their knowledge. Who are these business owners who are traveling from awareness to knowledge, and they are actually, taking one step forward and moving towards execution, because knowledge alone is not going to help them. They need to move towards execution also. And what if they need help during knowledge, and what if they need help during execution? And those who will surpass this phase, they will survive. And those who will not, they possibly were never into the right business, or they were never into the right profession. Yeah, that's a reality they have to accept. And so far it's about pivot. Pivot has different dimensions. Are you making a new product from the manufacturing facility? Those who are making garments are now making PPE kits. That's a pivot, correct? But if someone was not using digital marketing earlier, now using digital marketing, possibly that's not a pivot, because they were earlier also selling bottles, now also they sell bottles. So pivot has a different dimension for different people. And the way I said, for tier 2, 3, 4 town business entrepreneur, this setback will be more.
Shreyas, would you say that then for traditional businesses which have not had exposure to the digital landscape because their mode of transaction was traditional and was working so far, it's very easy to say, okay, digitize, get onto the digital bandwagon. But if you were etched in stone in your traditional avatar, suddenly to make that leap of faith and to make that move might be quite overwhelming. How do you make those initial baby steps to somewhat adopt easy digital practices? That is step one into the transformation process.
I think it's first of all, we should acknowledge that this is a difficult journey. I think I fully agree with Amit that sometimes we are so digitally native that we assume that everyone just gets it, right? So that's not true at all. I think there are a lot of people who will need handholding. There is a lot of responsibility on product builders like Vidit and Arjun and me to make sure our interfaces are simple. Our companies coach people to understand how to be digitally native. But in terms of if I have to give direct advice to someone, I think the first thing really a lot of people need is courage, because they are so scared of new technology. And because it's new and it's foreign to them, they're actually very, very scared about using it. Right. And I've seen this kind of play out within our house help or within people I know, where they need a lot of encouragement to say, it's okay, nothing's going to happen, you can use it. And in that way, I think YouTube's made a really big difference. YouTube has now become native for a lot of people, and there's a lot of amazing learning content on YouTube. So the first step I would tell people is don't try to start something, just watch every video you can about it on YouTube. And once you feel like it's really, you understand it, you know that clicking this button is not going to implode your computer, is not going to do something really harmful, only then start to use it. Having said that, absolutely, I think this is going to be an insanely challenging place for a lot of people. People forget lessons. I'm a huge history buff. Every time I read about the Great Depression, the real impact of the Great Depression happened 8 months after the Great Depression, because that's when hope ran out, right? That's when people start giving, and we should be very, very coherent of it. I think if we don't do this well, the worst might be yet to come. We haven't seen businesses wrapping up yet because I think people still hold that normalcy will come soon enough. So I think culturally, just one advice: get out of WhatsApp. WhatsApp has a lot of, you get a lot of stuff which is not really useful on WhatsApp, and go to some platform where people are uploading content like YouTube, which is free. And please watch everything on YouTube you can about a subject. I think 2 weeks later, you'll be in good stead.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time and, of course, for your priced advice to all the entrepreneurs listening in. Once again, thank you for joining us on this high impact eForum. Thank you very much. Arjun, would you say today some of the biggest challenges in front of small businesses who have traveled 6 months and now raring to go for the next 6 months to a year during this difficult period, would you say would be digital literacy, or would it be something else?
In my view, all these things are, I would say, manifestations of the same problem. We are a group of people who, as Shreyas rightly pointed out, we are digitally native. We have been using all this technology for really long years. And we should ask ourselves, how many of us have actually used cash in last 1 year? There's high probability that all of us say no. I'm sure Shreyas would definitely say no, right? So we are very used to this. While this new breed of people who are forced into it are very, very new to it. And it's absolutely right. I would say one of the biggest reasons why this digital divide existed in a place like India is because of the language. All digital technologies, all apps, all software, everything was communicating to the user in English. And finally, the number of Indians who are comfortable with English language. I mean, they can read, probably speak a little bit, but they're not comfortable using it to do a particular activity, right? So that was one of the biggest reasons, in my opinion, why this whole fear of technology and digital divide came in. I think in last couple of years, especially with the smartphone revolution and the fact that companies have seriously started focusing on apps in multiple languages. You take Hindi or Malayalam or Tamil or Bengali, whatever it is, have changed a lot of things. And today, if you look at it, the most popular, the unicorn apps, all of them have realized this is moving towards it. So I think it won't be digital literacy. It will be to help them or handhold them and make them comfortable about the fact that this is easy. Once they start looking into it, right, they will start picking it up. I honestly don't think that it's very tough today, because we are not really, I mean, 10 years ago, you could have said that, because all the software, everything used to be developed in the West, and we just used to use it. So they were never designed for Indian population. Now things have changed. Now I think the UIs are designed keeping in mind that the users will be largely Indians. The phones will not have that kind of capacity, or the laptops will not be, or the internet prowess will not be there. So I don't really think that it is. I think what is required is the fact that small businesses should be ready to start looking at it without fear. I'm sure that that's been happening, whether be it due to force or lack of any other option, but that's happening. So I don't see that as a problem, especially because companies are also waking up to the fact that this is a new teaching.
Fair enough. I'm going to start taking some questions that are coming my way. And, majority of them is about what are the chances of us getting funds for a new venture? How do I get financial help? So Amit, you want to take that on, people basically, and we all know this is true, that, funding is becoming a problem. for small businesses because they're cash strapped. And, even the commentary from people who are funders is that they are looking for funds for survival, not for growth. And that is actually a fact.
We face this almost 35% times because we have three buckets mainly where we see the questions coming in. The people look for advice. One is the finance bucket, other is the customer bucket, and third is the capacity bucket. So finance bucket has these kind of questions, and to your surprise, and the reality is that if someone is asking for say 50 lakh rupees fund, and that can be from any source. It can be from bank or it can be from any other player who wants to invest with them. The idea of an investor, whether it's a bank or whether it's someone who is giving them money for any reason, is to get their money back. But the mentality what a micro business owner or a small business owner has, that I need this money as help. Now, investors or banks, they are not ready to help because they are not giving this money as a charity. So the first rule is that if you want any money from any institution, you need to give them the confidence that you will be able to return this money. That's the first fundamental rule of investing. Now, for giving this kind of confidence, you need to obviously have some kind of plan. And the basic plan is missing.
Shreyas, there's a question coming in and I think you should take it. It says, what is the future of co-working spaces? I'm specifically asking you this because you've moved to Goa and you're next to a co-working space. So who better than you to answer that question?
So the co-working space I am in is not a typical co-working space. I think the co-working space we are talking about is like WeWork or office and so on and so forth. I think they'll still be relevant because commercial office spaces have a bigger existential crisis, right? I think most of us have scaled down our office spaces, or if we were expanding, we're not going to expand anymore because most people tend to work from home, or only a subset of people will come to office in the foreseeable future. And the biggest learning of the last 6 months has been productivity, at least in the short term, has not been impacted. Right? I think morale has definitely been impacted. I think morale of working together, meeting each other in person was definitely advantageous. So I think the future world is going to be a bit of a hybrid, right? You're not going to go to work for 6 days a week or 5 days a week, but you will go to work when you need to meet with other people and establish that rapport of working together. So you might end up going to work in short durations. And for that, co-working spaces are structured well, right? Because they're not structured on fixed spaces. They're structured on something variable which expands and contracts. So I think co-working spaces will definitely be relevant going forward, and I think they'll do well. I think commercial real estate, I think they have a problem. I think commercial real estate, if they're not worrying themselves to sleep every day, they're not thinking deep enough.
Would this be a smart time to start a business?
Yes, it is a right time to start the business. The fact of the matter is that whatever you say, fortunately or unfortunately, there is a large availability of quality talent in the market today who are looking for jobs. So I think we are at a stage where costs are at an all-time low. Customers are finding it comfortable to do transactions online, which means you don't need to go to them, no retail store, no travel cost. So we are in a stage where the cost is at an all-time low. Number one. Number two is this whole pandemic, and it's a world over. It's not even an epidemic, it's a pandemic thing, right? It has changed the equation across the world. Suddenly, sitting today in India, if I'm starting business online, and you'll have to start business online if you want to make it big, there is no other place people are there today. You suddenly have access to the entire world. All you need to do is you need to understand a group of customers who will behave in a particular manner and make products which make sense for across the world. So I think because of these two reasons, there is no other time better than start a business. It is risky, but it's always the people who take risky moves who gets rewarded at the end.
Does anybody have a contra view to Arjun, saying that this may not be the smartest time to start a business? Or are all three panelists in agreement with him?
All agree on that. I may have an additional point to support that. The point is like this: when the times are good, everyone is starting. So that is leading to a red ocean. The times are bad, not everyone is taking a courage to do that. So those who are taking the courage, they are going to enter into a blue ocean, and obviously with time that will get crowded once again. But yeah, they will get the advantage of first mover. So people are shutting down. We always say when the stock market falls, that's the right time to buy, not when it is on the spree.
What is the future for small traders and shopkeepers post COVID?
I used to be in the retail sector earlier. I used to work for the Tata's Titan for a long, long time. So what has happened is that Titan always used to believe in one thing. Titan always used to believe that whenever people did ask them that world is moving towards e-commerce, why are you not going e-commerce? They always used to say that I don't believe in what the world is doing. I will finally listen to only one person who is my customer. I will keep looking at what he wants or what she wants, and wherever that person goes, I will chase them. If that person wants to buy products on e-commerce, I will be there. Now that person is interested more in retail. So my answer will be that future, of course, is changing. We need to wait and see whether the habits which has got inculcated in last 5 months will remain there. Of course, there is a huge convenience factor about e-commerce, but question is, well, after 2 3 months, when everything opens up with the social factor, we know the convenience factor. So it could be a hybrid world. It's all about which business you are in, who is your customer, what does that customer want, and if you can create the service, the product, or the channel or communication aligned with that consumer's needs and aspirations.
Sure. And that's a great point to bring up because, while the world is, chalking out trends and, talking about what is going to be the future, all of our cumulative behavior, whether that's going to stick post the world, coming back to normal, I'm not sure if people truly have an understanding of what will really take place. Would you agree with that, Vidit? That, we really don't know which behavior will stick and which will not.
I think broadly, what you tend to see is since this pandemic is not a very short period, all of us are going to try these behaviors for a significant long period of time, right? So if that is a year, 1.5 years, and you start to stick to some behaviors, feel comfortable, these are more convenient to you. Like, for example, you look at all of us, when we started to try e-commerce as a channel to buy a lot of things, starting with books long ago. I haven't bought book like offline for a very long time, right? And I passed through some of these bookstores. It's just once you change someone's behavior for some time, it's very hard to go back. So I think it may not be 100% inelastic after this. Okay, hey, it will stay exactly the same, but I don't think it'll be a big difference, by the way. So again, living on hope may not be the best answer. Okay, hey, things are going to go back. Let me kind of stick to what I was doing. I would say everyone. So if I just look at traders in your question, right? Traders in the offline world used to serve a lot of things. One is, hey, they are just giving access to products in certain geographies. That doesn't exist anymore because when you're online, everyone suddenly has access to products irrespective of where you are. So if you were trying to offer this value, it may not be as important. Some people used to stay relevant because they were giving access to credit to some of the retailers they were selling to. Now, some of that does not change. So I'm saying everyone needs to relook at the kind of value that they were bringing into that value chain and then reconsider, is this relevant or not relevant? And then how do I, again, figure out to become successful in this new world? And this will also be very different across categories. Like in some categories, like it could be grocery, the answer could be very different, both for traders and shopkeepers. But in some categories such as fashion lifestyle, the answer could be very, very different. So I don't think there'll be one single answer to this. But I think things will change. And fundamentally, people will figure out what makes me successful in the new world, and I need to kind of invest in some of these capabilities.
There's a direct question for you, Vidit, which is, has e-commerce business volume increased for garments and home decor products?
Yeah, so we have seen very, very interesting trends in terms of categories. So if I look at just fashion, and now things are changing again because festive season is coming very close. But what we saw as soon as lockdown lifted after about a quarter from March to June, we saw suddenly a lot of this volume moved from occasional fashion to now daily wear fashion. But we did not see people not buying. Because if you look at it, a lot of people started to save a lot more money. They were not spending in entertainment. They were not going out, right? And all of us stuck at home depressed. So I need to do something to keep myself engaged. And the kind of audience we have, women, for them, buying fashion, etc., is fun, it's pleasure, all of that comes in. So we saw people just change the kind of product they started to buy. and it moved from occasional to a lot of this. We saw the sales for categories in all of home and kitchen skyrocketed because you're staying at home. You keep looking at this curtain all day. It's like, hey, I'm going to change this sooner than later now. And same thing goes for a lot of things in your kitchen, on your bed, all of this. So these categories have grown a lot because now you're spending all your time at home and you want to make sure that you are spending all this time in a great place and great environment. So I've seen like fashion as a category has changed characteristics. Home and kitchen overall has grown like massively.
Amit, why don't you, for all the small entrepreneurs who are listening to you, why don't you give them your 2 bits, your pearls of wisdom to how they should be looking at their business going forward?
I will say that the times have changed very fast in last 10 years, especially, and this is going to pick more and more pace. So whatever business you are in, be more aware, be more, open in terms of mind, and obviously keep your eyes, ear as well open, and adapt to the new changes, what is coming to you. No, technology is not your enemy. If you stay away from technology, you are not going towards adaptability, and that's not the right way. Make technology the way we say, that keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer. So don't think that technology is the enemy. Keep it more closer so that you can adapt and you can leverage it. Adopt in all across. It's not about the customer acquisition in terms of your internal processes everywhere. Use the technology, and that's the way. The second thing is be more open-minded for everything. So learning is one thing, going and talking to people is another thing. Taking advice is very important, because that's what we say that I'm damn sure, like, again, all of us are on screen, we all have mentor and advisor. But if you go and ask to a regular micro, medium, small enterprise, who is your mentor, who is your advisor? What is this? We don't know. Is it really required? So that next piece is that do have a mentor or an advisor in your life. That's the way to grow.
Fair enough. Shreyas, can you focus a little bit on, how to restructure costs? Because nobody's really touched upon it. But I think that's very important for smaller entrepreneurs.
First of all of us need to be a lot more cognizant about what costs are absolutely mandatory and what are optional. I think from fixed costs and people costs, I think there are a bunch of fixed costs, especially around facilities and stuff like that, where definite cost reduction can happen. Second, with people costs, I think it's very important that we all support job continuity as much as we can. So I would urge people to allow for job continuity, but build in structures for success. So if 100 was a base salary for someone and the business just can't afford 100 anymore, then allow them 60 fixed costs with a variable depending on performance, right? So that they still have an incentive to go out and do their job and push through and make sales happen for the company. Leverage on technology to bring some of the costs of communication and so on and so forth down. Distribution costs can be brought down by the company. So I think 3 large buckets. Look at your fixed costs, figure out what part of the fixed costs don't need to exist in the real world, figure out your people costs, figure out how to restructure the people costs so that we can continue to support job continuity, but also give people, even if it's a reduced salary, give people an option to earn more depending on performance so that overall motivational levels are still held through. And the third thing is really invest in technology tools to reduce the cost of distribution so that you can grow your business without needing more feet on the ground.
Without the raw material sector development, how is the fashion industry going to grow? As we are very dependent on China, Korea, Taiwan for raw materials.
I think people perceive somehow that supply chain is stopped. I don't think it has. We see a lot of categories in India is extremely dependent on this. So I'll give a very short answer to this question. It is a perception, and there was some problem for some time, but we haven't seen supply chain disruptions post that. And everyone realizes that China is a very key player in that supply chain. So in almost all categories that have extremely high dependence on China, we are seeing very stable supply chains right now. So I don't think the supply chain disruption that people speculate is a big problem, at least as of today. And a lot of people anyways have been planning on diversifying their sources of raw material sourcing. But again, I don't think that's a 100% answer, considering how everyone does it. I don't think anyone in the world can do it. So I think it's a lot of us think as a problem, but it's not as much. I think If you're a small business right now, please do not be defensive, be extremely aggressive. This is also an opportunity to change your business. Think about ways of adapting to the new world. Do not wait. Do not rely on hope that, hey, things will come back to normal and then you will succeed. What's more important is figure out, take help of everyone out there, take help of Amit's platform, take help of platforms to come and get distribution online, do everything possible, go to YouTube, get content, ask for people around you to kind of give you help, learn, do everything possible, but do not sit and wait and hope. Just go out, act on it. I have seen enough people who have figured out that COVID and post-COVID has given up a lot of newer problems for people to solve. And if you pick some of these opportunities, you can definitely build a big business.
Fair enough. And Arjun, you can close this session by giving your advice to people listening in.
I think we have covered most of the things between us four through the session and at the end of it. I don't have anything specifically to say, just that to reiterate, don't wait for anything. This is the world we are in. If you are waiting for the old world to come back, that's not going to happen. So learn to live in this, go deep, figure out the problems and solve it yourself. Once you start solving it, the help will automatically come. I mean, just to take on, a lot of people are asking about raising money and all these things. See, don't go to the money to raise it. Do your work, understand your consumer, grow your business. They will come looking for you. That's how it works. There's a lot of capital in the markets today. There is hardly any good companies to invest in. Every VC today is struggling to find that company which will give them the returns. So be that company which will give them the returns. They will find you. Don't worry about anything else.
I think that's a very optimistic note to end our session. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time and, of course, for your priced advice to all the entrepreneurs listening in. Once again, thank you for joining us on this high impact eForum. Thank you very much.